Let's talk about Biden issues long-awaited U.S. executive order on crypto. Federal agencies will evaluate their approach in 6 key priorities within the digital asset sector. Here's the takeaway. U.S. President Joe Biden will sign a first-of-its-kind executive order on cryptocurrencies on Wednesday, directing federal agencies to coordinate their approach to the sector. The executive order does not lay out specific positions the administration wants agencies to adopt or impose new regulations on the sector. One part of the order will direct the Treasury Department to create a report on the future of money, including how the current financial system might not meet consumer needs. So what we have here is the fact sheet as well from the White House. And let's go over this because this is the one we really want to get through. Digital assets, including cryptocurrencies, have seen explosive growth in the recent years, surpassing a $3 trillion market cap last November and up from $14 billion just 5 years prior. Surveys suggest that around 16% of adult Americans, approximately 40 million people, have invested in, traded, and or used cryptocurrencies. Over 100 countries are exploring or piloting central bank digital currencies. Stop. Don't do it. That's all. The rise in digital asset creates an opportunity to reinforce American leadership in the global financial system and at the technological frontier, but also has substantial implications for consumer protection. Here's where the fear mongering starts. We need to have a fear mongering tier list for cryptocurrency. That's what we need to create. I need to create that for you guys. What's it going to be? Consumer protection, right? Financial stability or instability, security, climate risk. They literally hit all 4 of these, bro, right here in one sentence. Financial stability, national security, and climate risk. There's literally all of your fear mongering in one sentence. One sentence. This is exactly how our government is functioning with no sources cited, right? The United States must maintain technological leadership in this rapidly growing space, supporting innovation while mitigating the risks for consumers, businesses, the broader financial system, and the climate. And it must play a leading role in international engagement and global governance of digital assets consistent with democratic values and U.S. global competitiveness. That is why today President Biden will sign an executive order outlining the first ever whole of government approach to addressing the risks and harnessing the potential benefits of digital assets and their underlying technology. The order lays out a national policy for digital assets across 6 key priorities. Consumer and investor protection. Here we go. Just add it all. It's all the fear-mongering topics. Financial stability, illicit finance, U.S. leadership in the global financial system and economic competitiveness. Okay, well, that's not so much. Financial inclusion and responsible innovation. Specifically, the executive order calls for measures to protect U.S. consumers, investors, and businesses. We don't need your protection. And I was all thinking of Pink Floyd. We don't need no education. Dun, 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 dun. By directing the Department of Treasury and other agencies partners to assess and develop policy recommendations to address the implications of the growing digital asset sector and changes in financial markets for consumers, investors, businesses, and equitable economic growth. The order also encourages regulators to ensure sufficient oversight and safeguard against any systemic financial risks posed by digital assets. We want to tell you what you can and can't buy. And here's the problem. I understand that because there's a huge group of people that don't want to accept the responsibility for any of their actions. When they participate in scams, they don't want to accept their own responsibility and how their ignorance played a part. This is why when I get caught in scams or I do something stupid, I let you guys know. I am accepting responsibility for it and then letting the community know. If everybody acted this way, then we do not need government protections for this. But I understand why we have government protections for this at this point. It's just a little frustrating because it will get manipulated. Here's the next one. Protect U.S. and global financial stability and mitigate systemic risk by encouraging the Financial Stability Oversight Council to identify and mitigate economy-wide financial risks posed by... So we're just going to say systemic over and over again. They really love that one. Posed by digital assets and to develop appropriate policy recommendations to address any regulatory gaps. This one definitely will apply even more control. I feel like a lot of this is written very broadly so that they can essentially have an umbrella to kind of do whatever they want. Mitigate the illicit finance and national security risks posed by the illicit use of digital assets by directing an unprecedented focus of coordinated actions across all relevant U.S. government agencies to mitigate the risks. It also directs agencies to work with our allies and partners to ensure international frameworks, capabilities, and partnerships are aligned and responsive to risks. Cool. Just let's throw a huge old blanket over it to make sure that we can do whatever we want. Promote U.S. leadership in technology and economic competitiveness to reinforce U.S. leadership in the global financial system by directing the Department of Commerce to work across the U.S. government in establishing a framework to drive U.S. competitiveness and leadership in and leveraging of digital asset technologies. This framework will serve as the foundation for agencies and integrate this as a priority into their policy, research and development, and operational approaches to digital assets. Promote equitable access to safe and affordable financial services by affirming the critical need for a safe, affordable, and accessible financial services as a U.S. national interest that must inform our approach to digital asset innovation, including disparate impact risk. Such safe access is especially, safe. Safe means centralized. Safe means tracking of all of your digital assets. Safe means invasion of privacy. That's what this means in this. The Secretary of the Treasury, working with all relevant agencies, will produce a report on the future of money and payment systems to include implications for economic growth, financial growth and inclusion, national security, and the extent to which technological innovation may influence that future. Support technological advances and ensure responsible development and use of digital assets. By directing the U.S. government to take concrete steps to study and support technological advances in the responsible development, design, and implementation of digital asset systems while prioritizing privacy, security, and combating illicit exploitation and reducing the negative climate impacts. Okay, so we're just going to say the same things over and over again. This one's kind of interesting, though, because it does say they will prioritize privacy and security, but whose privacy and security are they going to be utilizing that for, right? And reducing negative climate impacts, which we got, here's the big one. I'm just going to say it right off the bat before we read this. I am pro cryptocurrency. I am anti central bank digital currencies. Reason being, just essentially, is right now the way it functions is we have the Federal Reserve, right, that's going to be printing money, blah, 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 and then signing that out to banks. At least there is some sort of decentralization, not really true decentralization because they're all in bed together, but there is at least some sort of check and balance of basically federal government and banks and so on. The threat of a central bank digital currency means that you consolidate that into the Federal Reserve or into the federal government, potentially, meaning that now you have a single point, a single entity that controls all transactions that happen across the entire country, and that is dangerous. That is the opposite direction of what Bitcoin is trying to go into. So when you hear central bank digital currency, back up, take a break. Explore a U.S. central bank digital currency, CBDC, by placing urgency on research and development of a potential United States CBDC. Should issuance be deemed in the national interest, the order directs the U.S. government to assess the technological infrastructure and capacity needs for a potential U.S. CBDC in a manner that protects Americans' interests. Once again, they got to protect us. We can't protect ourselves, blah, blah, blah. This is... You know, I do have to say, like, I used to, like, I've always grown up, and first of all, I've always had firearms growing up. I've always shot, all that sort of thing, but I always used to have kind of this, hey, should we regulate, you know, maybe firearms and so on, at least shut down like gun show loopholes, that sort of thing. And then of course, understanding that further on. And I think as you grow as a human being, you kind of like shift through like your points of view on things. And there's a couple parts where I feel like I was completely wrong as far as the firearms argument goes. Leave the gun show loophole, put less regulations in. And the reason being is because what I see is a manipulation by the government to essentially use the word protect you. And the thing is that you can't do that in a country with hundreds of millions of people or in the world, right? And the best way is to enable your population to protect themselves, whether that be physically or financially. And that's really how this needs to be played out. And it needs to play out that way with cryptocurrency too. And so I kind of wanted to say that, but the order also encourages the Federal Reserve to continue its research, development, and assessment efforts for a U.S. CBDC, including development of a plan for broader U.S. government action and support for their work. This effort prioritizes U.S. participation in multi-country experimentation and ensures U.S. leadership internationally to promote CBDC development that is consistent with U.S. priorities and democratic values. The administration will continue to work across agencies and with Congress to establish policies that guard against risks and guide responsible innovation. With our allies and partners to develop aligned international capabilities that respond to national security risks, and with the private sector to study and support technological advances in digital assets. What's going on? Sounds like the U.S. government is definitely bullish on cryptocurrency technology. They definitely want to take it. They want to harness it for financial gain, but they also want to make sure they restrict it to the public to make sure they don't get the financial gain, baby. That's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. Now, why is this so broad, like we've talked about? Well, it's so broad because now they can throw in whatever little pieces they need on an individual agency level, and they will do it all under the guise of protection of the public. Let's just say it again. We say it all the time. With great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man, right? What does Bitcoin give you? It gives you the responsibility of controlling your private keys, controlling your own financial autonomy, and the ability to transact peer-to-peer without the interference of a government or bank, other third party. Okay? That's what Bitcoin was created for. That's why it's here. If that is not the direction we go in with cryptocurrency, we end up with the exact same system that we have always had. Things like the 2008 financial crisis will continue to happen. It'll happen at an accelerated rate because they no longer have to print paper money. Not that they're even doing that anymore, but it becomes even easier to add to the amount of currency within circulation. And if we look into the past, whenever we accelerate the amount of currency in a society, that's typically near the end of whatever society that is. Even recent history with things like Venezuela, but we can go further back to the Roman Empire. And ever since the invention of currency, this is how it functions. All right. The only way to prevent that, and the reason why Bitcoin has a supply cap, is because it is intentioned to remove that factor from society, from economic situations. That's why it was created like that. And you need to understand that. And then if you don't agree with it, that's fine, but move into something other than cryptocurrency. That's the way it is. I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Crypto Mining Morning Show every Monday through Friday, 7:45 a.m. Pacific and 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time. You can check out more clips here, or if you're interested in checking out the entire live show, you can check that out down here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Tuesday.